Hi, this is Amy. I'm here with Rob Weinstein, co-owner of Event Rental Systems, and I'm here to talk about cash flow projections, tips and tricks to help your business become even more successful than it already is. So Rob, tell me a little bit about cash flow projections and business, sizing up businesses and their value.
So cash flow projections are used to size up a company, and certainly they're useful once you're already up and running. Anytime that you're planning a major change in your business, you should probably go back to a spreadsheet with a cash flow projection. And all it is in the most basic sense is you put your expected income, and underneath it you break down your expenses into as many categories as you can. Inevitably, there will be more expenses than you ever think of. Mm-hmm. There'll be little things like, oh yeah, we spilled something, so now we have to buy a cleaner and we need more rags, or something will always come up. But by breaking it down into more parts, you're going to end up with a more accurate picture, is what I've found. And what I do is I always do my cash flow projections by month. So I'll say, all right, this is the first month that we're going to start looking at this, and it's January, so I'm not expecting much. So I'll put a number in there for what I think the number of rentals are. And then you can get a little bit fancier with time. So what I do is, for those sales, rather than just putting in a dollar amount, I'll say how many rentals and what is the average ticket, what is reasonable to assume, and that way I can do what-if statements. So then over on the side, I have that cell looking over here in Excel saying, so by looking at that number over here, if that feeds in over here into your number of sales, sure, you can adjust that number and play what-if statements. So what if I had 25 rentals that month versus 10 rentals that month versus 200 rentals that month, and multiply that by an average ticket, whatever that ticket you think it's going to be. If you're already in business, then you're going to know those numbers. But if you're just looking at a new business, you're going to have to take educated guesses on these things and break down your expenses, and then whatever money you have at the end of the month, whether that's positive or negative, floats over to the next month, and you keep going down. And I do a 12-month projection, and I assume that some months will be better than others, and I play with the numbers accordingly. And then I am a big proponent of setting up 3 of those. So it's a best case scenario, what you expect will happen, and a worst case scenario. So if you're looking at a new branch out of your company, you want to add something new, this is a good way to get an idea as to whether or not you think it's going to work. If you're brand new and looking at a new startup, it'll give you an idea as to what you might expect. A lot of companies, they say, well, if I buy this equipment and it only goes out once a month, no big deal, I'm still making money on it. But they don't take into account of, oh yeah, I still have to pay for internet, I still have to pay for a website, still have to pay for a phone service so that it's not getting mixed in with my personal calls. The bank charges money, the credit card company charges a monthly fee. So you could actually, if you only got one jump, if you're in the inflatable industry, if you set it up as a real business, you might have enough overhead that even if you got 1 rental a month, you're actually in negative cash flow. Sure. So it's important to go through all those scenarios and look at it and go, am I safe? And my rule of thumb is even the worst case scenario should look pretty good. And if it doesn't look pretty good, then you're probably looking at a bad business model. So I like to see a worst case scenario still looking like, all right, I'm not going to lose my shirt. If I had to, I could sell off the equipment and not lose a lot of money. Sure. That would be a worst case scenario. If your expected requires that you have a lot of positive cash flow for it to work, probably not a safe business model. Right. That's been my experience. And these cash flow projections can do some really interesting things. At one point I was looking at getting a brick and mortar for our rental business, and the rent for the building wasn't all that much, and you could say, well, you just need X number of rentals in order to pay for that. But then when you start breaking it down and say, oh, but if I have that many more rentals, that means I need more vehicles to deliver it, which causes more overhead and insurance for those vehicles. And it wasn't just the cost of the delivery, it created more expenses that went along with it. And what seemed like a very simple, pretty safe thing to do in the beginning caused this domino effect in the cash flow projection. And it just showed up as a little negative number. It was like 1 month it was negative several $100s or something. But when I went back in, and I had some business people look at it, and they said, oh, no, it's fine, just go for it. And I was going, yeah, but those negative numbers really bother me. Let me look at it a little closer. And when we really examined what it would take to get rid of the negative numbers, created this domino effect where we needed an extra $50,000 in cash up front, and created this huge cash flow problem to get rid of those little negative numbers. And it's one of those things that you would never see if you didn't put it into a spreadsheet. So I view this as necessary homework for any business, regardless of what you're about to do. You should put it on paper and ask yourself the tough questions. Is this really reasonable in this market?